In 2011, I launched a little blog. I think at the time, probably only my mom read it, and maybe a handful of my friends and family. But I just shared and wrote about how I was becoming who God made me to be. You see that little word? It changed the trajectory of my worldview. Tattooed it on my wrist, and I was laser focused on what it meant to pursue becoming the Emily God made me to be. So fast forward to 2014, I went to a writer's boot camp in Denver, Colorado with Margaret Feinberg, and I discovered what could happen. I started dreaming about the possibility of even more people discovering what it meant to become who God made them to be as well. So I made tons of notes. I dreamed big dreams with my mom, and I went back home and I decided to launch a becoming story. I thought, you know what? If I invited a friend over and we started filming how she was becoming who God made her to be, people might enjoy that. Well, over 100 stories later, you could say people have loved not only sharing their becoming journeys, but watching others becoming who God made them to be as well. Along that process between 2014 and 2019, I invited a bunch of amazingly talented writers to join me on the journey. I ended up having so many writers, so many contributors to BecomingMeTV that I ended up not writing as much, not sharing my journey as much, to the point where at the end of 2019, I was really mostly a content curator, an editor, publishing other stories and journeys, which is awesome. But I heard a quote from John Maxwell recently that really solidified what I know God has been doing in Emily's heart with BecomingMeTV over the past several months. You see, John shared, it's easier to tell a story than to live a story. You see, BecomingMeTV began as a place where I shared my story. I was living my story actively and sharing it online. And then in the process, others got inspired to share their journeys as well, and I became a platform for others to share. But I stopped sharing my story along the way. So in 2020, Emily's rediscovering her voice again. I'm discovering what it means to become who God made me to be. And I never stopped becoming Emily. I just stopped looking for the active little ways every single day that I was becoming and documenting those and sharing those. So BecomingMeTV is going to look a little bit different. We won't have blog series and there might not be as many interviews, but I'm going to share a lot of tangible stuff that I'm learning and I'm journeying through in my becoming story. So follow along on my social media channels. Stay tuned for book updates. I am still actively pursuing that dream to be a published author. And the BecomingMe.tv channels will come back in time. But right now, I'm stripping everything back to the voice of that junior in high school who just started a blog, who wanted to share how she was becoming who God made her to be. That's what I'm doing, stripping it back. I'm sharing my voice, and I'm going to invite others along the way as well to share their stories, because there is power in sharing each of our becoming journeys. We can learn so much from each other and in cheering each other on. So still stay tuned for some stories this year. But also, I'm really excited to just share how I'm becoming. Both really tangible things like wearing blue blocker glasses at night and how I prep smoothies, to what God's teaching me in His Word, to some really big truths that I'm going to share soon about how I discovered my style last year and a love for fashion that I always had but never really pursued, to how I'm learning about finances. Just some really exciting things that Emily's learning, how I'm becoming, and I can't wait to share that with you guys. I'm excited to share my voice and my story. So stay tuned. And hey, warrior friend, know that I am always cheering you on big time as you're becoming who you were made to be. And all of your stories over the last several years have inspired me deeply. And together, we're all becoming who God made us to be. Let the journey continue.